All right. This will be like Mark Squared have here on our Leaders Who Care series. So welcome, Mark, to the series. Great to have you here.
Yeah, great to be here, Mark. Thank you for having me.
No, it's my pleasure, my privilege. I think we're gonna have some really cool stuff to talk about, and people are gonna see that you are deserving of being on a series that's called Leaders Who Care. Um, from a candor point, because I know now that's one of your favorite words,
Mm.
to a kind point, but not necessarily a nice point. And that's an inside joke there, is maybe I don't know. So. I always have to put an asterisk, especially to men, on this first point. If you could briefly introduce yourself with respect to where you're from originally, where you are now, what do you feel comfortable talking about your family and stuff? Maybe something you've never told anybody and you want to reveal it to the world now. Those are always fascinating when people come up with that. But the asterisk is when I ask men, and we talked a little bit about this before about categories and titles and whatnot. Can you briefly introduce yourself? Well, my title is, and this is what I do. But that's not the question.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So share a little bit about Mark.
So originally from a small suburb of Boston called Winchester, and grew up there. And then I came from a family of athletes, so I played a lot of sports.
Hmm.
And I was one of four children, and then I went off to college at the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, and had a great time there. Met a lot of really nice people. Got a good education, and I moved to Chicago. Most of my interviewing was in the Chicago and surrounding states of Indiana, Illinois, and I ended up in the insurance business
All
for
right, well, I'm
three.
going to, I'm a great interrupter, by the way, you'll
Yeah,
find.
go ahead.
Good thing. We'll get to that, and we'll get to that. But yeah, I know you have kids. They're not, probably not kids anymore. Siblings, if you feel comfortable sharing about that.
Yeah, yeah. I've got an older brother who was a FedEx captain and a fighter pilot, and a younger brother who's in the product management space, and a sister who is a bit of an artist. And I'm the second oldest child.
Oh.
So my kids, I have three kids. I have two girls and a boy. They are not kids anymore. 36, 31, and 28. My son is the youngest. They were all athletes as well. So direct me where you want me to go. I don't know how deep you
No,
want me to get into this stuff.
yeah, I'm open. I can relate to that. I got three boys. One was supposed to be a girl, and and he's a great hockey goalie, so that kind of worked out really well and stuff.
Nice.
And now I have a bonus daughter, so at least I got my daughter in the in the family and stuff. Well, the reason I bring that up is it's always great to know about kids, and I like to find out like what you were like as a kid. Were you the lemonade stand entrepreneur? Were you music, ballroom dancing,
Yeah, no,
sports?
it was all sports for me. I played basketball and baseball in high school, but I played, we used to go outside all the time. It's a different world right now.
Yeah.
Every moment that I didn't have to sit at the dinner table or do homework, I was outside until dark. And the neighborhood was full of open doors, and everyone was welcome everywhere. And it was pretty easy to put together a hockey team or a football team or a baseball team. And then we went around. There were three places because we didn't have cell phones, so my parents didn't know where I was most of the time.
And you didn't wear a helmet when you rode your bike,
They didn't have helmets. I
right?
think they might have had them. They might have had them at the Tour de France, but not we. We didn't have seat belts. We didn't have helmets. We drank out of the garden hose. It was but I don't want to be the old guy reminiscing. So
No, I'm with you.
yeah, yeah. I played the piano for a little while, and then
Oh,
I couldn't look out the window and watch everybody running around outside and stay at the piano. So I gave that up, and I that's one of my regrets because I love music and I love to read. But yeah, it was pretty much a white picket fence upbringing, until everybody got a little older, and then
pretty- but it's a great upbringing to look back on, isn't it?
it is. Yeah, I'm very 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 grateful, and yeah, it was a good time.
You rode bar bikes to school. You stayed out as long as you can until your mom called you in. Things like that, and you really, it was all we were all interacting. We'll get to communication, like we talked about, but we're all interacting all the time because
Yeah, yeah. I not to get off on a tangent, but I
I
really,
love tangents, by the way.
I'm really kind of concerned about the level of disconnection between humans now, and particularly young people. And it's going to be part of my offering, whatever my offering evolves into, is helping people with human connection, really empathy and compassion and relationships. I think
That's
that's going
ridiculous. Why would you want to have that? Come on.
to.
What are you talking about? You know, a
Yeah,
good friend.
I'm a stickler with my kids. If we're talking, they're not looking at their phone. I don't allow that.
A friend of mine is the executive director of MAMA, which is Mothers Against Media Addiction,
Mm,
and it's a tremendous organization that's growing fast, and it definitely refers to what you're talking about and we're talking about here because it's a problem. It's a problem right now.
it is. It's a big problem, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, I think.
So, what were you thinking about when you went to Notre Dame? I mean, I went to McGill, but I became a Hurricanes fan when I was down. I got to the States, and those were great games against Notre Dame,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and stuff. But what were you envisioning at the time? You got your marketing degree. What did you think was going to happen?
It's so interesting. It's a great question. It's so interesting when I look back on it. I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I was 17. I mean,
Right.
how many 17-year-olds really know what they're doing? With due respect to 17-year-olds. And I wrote a book on short book on why college is irrelevant now. I think my kids might have been one of the last. I remember my father. I was applying to Ivy League schools because I was in Boston. I remember throwing the application to Harvard in the trash can, saying, "I don't want to go to Harvard. I grew up 10 minutes away, and
Right.
it's a bastion of liberal and people with attitudes. I wanted to get away, and but I didn't know what away meant in terms of college. And my father said, "Well, have you ever thought about Notre Dame?" And I said, "Well, isn't that like a football school?" And I had no idea what Notre Dame was about. And he said, "No, it's a lot more than that. Why don't you just apply and see what happens?" And I got late admission, and I don't know. I don't even remember why I took a marketing class. I was enamored by the fact that there were people from all over the world, and it was very difficult to get in. I did pretty well grade wise. I don't think I could get in now,
I
but
know.
I met some fascinating people, and I was raised Catholic too, so it kind of supported that faith journey, which I walked away from it for many years after college and then came back to it. That's another interesting story. But I played a lot of intramural sports, and most of those were really high level, Division 2, even some Division 1. And I got to play with a lot of the guys on the football team and the basketball team, many of whom went into the NBA and the NFL. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, and then when it came time to look for work after school, every big company in the country came to Notre Dame,
Sure.
and so it was. I had a bunch of interviews, and I ended up in Chicago working for Metropolitan Life.
Yeah, it's kind of like the route we're taught to take almost, right?
I
And
think people should go. Very few people, 80% maybe 90% of 17-year-olds should take a year off and get a couple $100 from their parents, pack a backpack, and go to Europe and walk around for a year and maybe never come back. But when you come back, you're going to be so much more mature and so much more aware and so much more well-rounded.
yeah.
Then, if you still want to go study somewhere for 4 years, I think you get a lot more out of it. And
Well, there are countries that that's what they do.
you know,
Denmark, Israel, some others can't remember. They give them, something, a gap year, whatever they want to call it. That's what
yep.
they do. And education is more than just going to a building, which is called a school.
Well,
Um,
you know as well as anybody, Mark, that knowledge is easy to get now. What
mhm.
the world is lacking is wisdom, you know,
And leadership.
and
Um,
leadership. Oh man, is it lacking in leadership? Yeah, I really it frustrates me when I hear people referred to, oh, that guy's a leader. I'm like, no, no, he's a person in a position of authority, but I wouldn't call him a leader.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
happens a
No,
lot.
it's interesting. When you talk about I want to talk about your initial career, but our firm was founded, Fifth Element was founded on well, two premises that leaders and their organizations will do way better when they're doing good and making some kind of impact.
Hmm.
Um, just because, and tech is a tool to use to make all that happen.
Hmm.
Um, um, we're also, I trademarked the term leaders who care, which is what this series is about, is that caring is not a fluffy, soft thing. In fact, I never even like the term soft skills. We call them high skills, which is human intelligence.
Hmm.
Soft means soft. It means
Yep.
fluffy. It means not strong. And I've never been in the military. I've been in militia in Canada, but never in the military. And it's kind of like sports in a way, where leadership is a lot of things, but it's certainly not soft. And
No, no, no.
and
I
and
think
all that. Your initial career was all about, really, to a great degree, an industry that I'm kind of familiar with, which is headhunting.
yeah,
And by the way, there was no degree. I thought there should have been in schools for headhunters
yeah.
and have a degree for that. But how did you find yourself in the tech recruitment world?
Yeah, this is this is an interesting story. I found out that my girlfriend was pregnant, and
Well, the key
wh-
question is there, through with whom?
what's that? Oh yeah. Excuse me, it was me.
Oh, okay, good.
But
I
but
guess good. I'm not sure, actually.
well, the reason I bring that up is because I that woke me up. I think I was 26, 27 maybe. I was kind of wandering around, not sure what I was going to do, and at that moment, I decided everything's going to change. You're going to turn the volume up on this and go get a life for this family that you've created, a good life. And I walked into my parents' condominium shortly thereafter, and they had some guests. My mother's best friend had remarried this Australian guy, very nice fellow. And we had a glass of wine, and I said, I don't usually ask people what they do for a living because my father taught me not to do that. Um, but I'm in a massively urgent search to find something. Might I ask you what you do? And he told me. I said I recruit petrochemical engineers for Saudi Arabian oil companies. And I said, can you say that in English? And he said he started to tell me about recruiting. And I said, what? I thought companies hired their own people. And he said, well, this would be considered what's called a critical skill. It requires advanced degrees. It's very rare. It's very specific. And a lot of companies reach out for technology type folks or process type engineering type folks. And I asked him more qualifying questions. I said, well, how do you get paid? Well, we get a percentage of the starting salary. I said, well, what are the starting salary ranges? He said, around 300,000 and up. And what are the percentages? He said 25. And I said, I think I'm going to go become a recruiter. And yeah, I answered an ad in a newspaper. That same I stayed there. The paper was sitting on the table, and I just answered the ad, and they brought me in on Monday and hired me on the spot. So, and they sat me next to a guy who became one of my good friends, who I actually started my own company with a couple of years later. So, and this is a kicker, Mark. The first guy I placed was an electrical engineer, single guy with three young boys who was about to lose his home. And he told me I saved his life. And whew, I'm like, I think this is what God wants me to do too. So get a little
Yeah.
emotional thinking about that.
Well, we do impact people's lives, and it's the best feeling I've ever had when people or their spouse or whatnot say thanks for considering us for this opportunity. It's the best thing happened to us, and so that's, you got to have more than just. It's just part of the reason we trademark leaders who care. You got to have more than just placing people in jobs. That's
Hmm.
not fulfilling per se, you know?
Well, what's interesting about this industry, if you just wanted to throw all the headhunters in a big bowl, I think 80 or 90% of them just aren't that good. They're transactional in nature. They don't build relationships. They don't follow up well.
Yeah.
They don't niche down. They specialize in everything. And I discovered that when I started hiring my own recruiters, and I made a very quick decision early on. I'm not hiring anybody with experience. I'm sick of deprogramming bad habits. I'm hiring young, aggressive, quality human beings that once I explain what we do, they really want to do it. And
Hmm.
I discovered I love training. I've always been a teacher. I've always been the captain. I've always been a mentor. So it slid right in nice.
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't grow up wanting to be a headhunter, by the way. And
No, I don't think anyone does.
I know. Um, and it was an EY partner who spoke to what then was going to become my partner, who was dabbling in it with a little office and stuff. And we decided to just do it. And most hunters, the good ones, will say something like, "Well, we're unemployable. That's why we do what we do, because
Hmm.
no one would hire us either." But done properly, it's a really to toot our own horns. It's a really important profession to represent the client and then take care about the candidates too. At the same
Yeah,
time.
when it's done well, it's life changing, as you alluded to earlier, and I really enjoyed it. And I early on, I had two really good mentors. The second one in particular, um, but it was all about high touch, deep relationship, specialized, and kind of a highbrow, high value. Those conversations are more fun. Those people are more fun, But yeah, there's not a lot of good training out there. So kudos to you guys for figuring it out.
Well, I don't know if we figured it out yet, but there's always more. You gave a great example of an impactful moment. Were there any other inflection points or experiences that stood out for you and even were impactful in now your next chapter in your career?
Yeah, well, I have to mention my mentor. I mean, I bumped into him when I was in the personal mess stuff. We both decided, let's get out of here. There's too many people with opinions on what we should do and shouldn't do. Let's go start a life for ourselves. And once I made that decision, I was out on the golf course with a girl that I had recruited with for a while. So she knew a lot about me and how good I was at it. And she was very good. And she said, you got to talk to my friend Paul. And that's how I met my mentor. 3 hour interview, hired on the spot. Said, you want to go to Florida? I got an office starting up down there. Go help me build it. And then let's go. And I still talk to him. We spoke just the other day. He taught me. He said basically said to me, I went down and we did some permanent stuff, some contingent stuff, and then one day he said, I want to start a consulting company. I want to do contracting, and I want you to do it with me. I'll pay for everything and I'll teach you how to do everything, and you're going to do all the work. I'll be a strategy guy. You be the tactical guy. Hire, fire, train, everything. And so I was drinking through a garden hose. That was a double MBA and a PhD, all while making six figures. And that's why I'm such a staunch. I push the notion of mentorship all the time.
Sure.
I don't think we do enough of it. I don't think there are enough people doing it. And particularly early on, you can change a young person's life dramatically with proper mentorship.
Yeah,
So,
there's no doubt, and there's some distinction between mentor, champion, and even influencer. And I'm
mhm,
not talking about the YouTube influencers, but influencer type
mhm,
of thing. Where
mhm.
in Florida, by the way?
Orlando.
Okay, yeah, I think you told me that.
It's
Yeah.
it's technically College Park, but it's attached to the city.
Oh, yeah. And actually one of my sons, my oldest son, went to a UCF over there
Oh
also,
yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
that
one
was
of
like a
the.
big high school when I got here in 1990, and now it's one of the best universities in the country.
It's amazing how that school grew.
Oh man,
Unbelievable.
I
Um,
watched it. I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally crazy. And but yeah, Florida was a good place to do that in because it was growing like crazy. Um, they so speaking about all that, they say the fourth industrial revolution is about AI and technology, but a
Mm,
lot of people are talking that the fifth one is actually humanity,
mm,
because of the way things are going. Um, um, it's become more prevalent for a lot of reasons that men are having more life challenges these days, for a lot of different reasons also, including mental health issues. Um, with respect to that, why, and how did you found Seven Pillars?
Yeah, it's really become something very different than it was when I founded it. I had a partner, and we tried a few things that didn't work, and a couple things that did. And he had another career, another business that started to blossom. And we decided a couple years ago now, let's just break. I'll take seven pillars, and you go do your thing, and we'll thank each other and stay friends. It was quite a amicable. Um, but I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I had
Again?
Yeah, yeah. I've had a lot of those moments, Mark. But it is related to my personal circumstance because the wife, ex-wife I just described, she became an ex-wife, and it was a very contentious thing, and I needed to be available for my kids because she didn't wasn't concerned about who she hurt. She just wanted to hurt me, and doing that through the kids was the easiest and most effective way to do it. But
Right.
I needed to be on the road. I needed to be at three different schools, to three different practices, to recitals, to teachers' meetings, to doctors. And I raised my girls became women under my guidance. God bless them. And very interesting experience. I've actually had people tell me you see the world in a very unique way, Mark, because probably raising two daughters on your own. And I never thought about it until somebody said that. But
Did you play tea and little things like that along the way? And
I did my best. I did my best.
did you have ribbons in your hair back then?
No, no. They dressed my son up though when he was little, and that used to piss me off. But they thought it was hilarious. But so I needed to be mobile. I needed to have a laptop and a phone, and not it didn't matter where I was.
Right.
And so I sacrificed a lot of potential income to I didn't miss a game, I didn't miss a practice, I didn't miss a teacher's meeting.
Good for you.
I even got Mother's Day cards for a few years from friends, and there was such closeness. And when my girls moved and switched from dancing to playing volleyball, I think it might have saved my life because sitting in a dance recital inside is just not my cup of tea. But watching them win
I
state
would never
champions,
guess.
they won state champions and national championships. They played at a very high level, and it was a lot of fun. We did a lot of traveling. But that's why. So I was basically still doing a few placements here and there, but they were high end stuff. So I could, the fees were like 40 or 50 grand. So I only needed a few of them to pay the bills, and the flexibility was good. And then I helped my kids find work out of school. And so I had three sessions, one with each of them, a couple hours. And each of them said to me, independent of the others, Dad, you have to teach this to other people. No one else is teaching what you know. We got jobs like quickly and for more money than we thought we were ever going to get. Good ones. And then all their friends started coming to me. Mr. Aylward, can you help me? Can you help me? I'm like, at some point I got to charge for this stuff, but I'm not gonna, this. But it dawned on me, and sometimes, Mark, at least in my experience, when you know something really well, you kind of lose sight of the fact that other people don't, right?
100%. Yeah.
They know their thing really well, but not your thing,
Right.
you know? So I was undervaluing myself, at least in my own mind. And that started the coaching and the stuff. And now I'm basically, it's all the same work in my mind. How do I move you from where you are to where you want to go? And
Hmm.
I act as an agent in that process, leveraging the thousands of these conversations that I've had over the years, and I really enjoy them, and they're good. So I'm just right now in the position of scaling them. I've got a coach, and we're productizing some things, and because it's time for money, even if it's a big fat hourly wage, at some point it just doesn't scale, and it doesn't afford me the flexibility that I want. So that's where I am now. And I decided the other thing that was very challenging for me is that what I do can help everyone, but you cannot market to everyone. So I had to pick. And as much as I like helping young kids, that involves the parents. Kids don't have money and don't want to be charging kids. But I think there's a solution for young people in the horizon for me too, because my friend says we teach these kids in socialism, and then we toss them into capitalism and wonder why they fall flat on their face because they don't teach the stuff we're talking about. So, but I picked men because I'm a man. The worldview I'm looking for is probably leans a little right, maybe in the middle, but it doesn't matter to me. And then, I like this concept of clarity, helping someone who doesn't know what to do next or is facing a decision of three different options and needs help processing that decision.
Yeah.
And I bring clarity to that from my experience and my concern for the well-being of the person, and then courage starts to blossom, and it's fascinating. It's kind of like making a placement. You get immediate feedback and appreciation because you take someone who's confused or is feeling shame or regret or scared, and you clarify what to do and why,
Yeah.
and it makes sense to them. It's just the light bulb goes off, and I love it, you know.
Yeah, you remind me of and this is where sports comes in. I can't tell you how many executives I've spoken to, mostly men, but now women to a great degree too, that said to me, when I was 9, my coach put me on the field or on the ice in one of the most critical times of the game. And they don't even tell me if they scored or anything. They just said it was so amazing that he put me on at that time. He
Mm-hmm.
really believed in me and he really trusted me and he told me what I was doing right or wrong. And that's the foundation. Sometimes that one point
Mm-hmm.
is the foundation literally for their whole confidence, their whole life,
Yep.
which is really maybe scary, but also so amazing that you only need, I can't remember who thought of this, who said this statement, but we only need one person to believe in us
Mm-hmm.
to be great.
I'm familiar with that, but I can't remember who said it either. Yeah, it's
And
true.
it always showed me, and I think this gives credit to what you're doing too, that in sports, and you mentioned Saudi Arabia before, I just came back from Saudi Arabia a couple of months ago, talking about ice hockey and figure skating and skating and all the business that goes around it, especially education. I've always believed that, and this is obvious for you, we can learn, kids and even adults can learn so much in sports that doesn't necessarily negate school, but it's different learning at different times and different ways that it's accepted and learned at
Mm-hmm.
that point. And
Mm-hmm.
they can last, it's going to be so impactful. We don't do it enough, I don't think,
No, we don't.
in sports and other avenues like you're doing. And the fact that you're talking about men, and I do love, the name of your podcast, The Imperfect Men's Club. It's hilarious, but who's to say what's perfect anyway? There's no such
Well,
thing.
my co-host and good friend Jim says the imperfection is the perfection.
100, boy, he's my brother from another mother, if I can that. Um, because, and you know what? I'm not going to talk looks even, whether it's men's looks or women's looks, how we look. I think you're more beautiful when you're not perfect in whatever perfect is the look type of thing.
Yeah, I do a lot of content creation on LinkedIn, which is my main kind of engine of outreach and such. And it's vulnerability and making fun of yourself, self-deprecation, storytelling around those concepts. That's what people are interested in, you know.
Sure, it's real life.
And and I drop the occasional F-bomb in that content, and it moves the impressions up. It's like I think people want to talk to other people like who they are. You said it earlier in a different way, but one of the things I do with people is it was the introduction. I ask people let's start the discussion. How can I help? And they start telling me what they do.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I don't care what you do.
Right.
I want to know who you are.
Exactly. That
And
sounds
it's
familiar.
amazing how many people struggle with that conversation. And I find most people don't ever have that self-reflection moment. I find myself in self-reflection all the time. And so, but that's the starting point. If you're stuck somewhere, I don't care what it is, professional, personal, then to get unstuck, you have to start by saying, well, okay, let me have a conversation with myself. Who the hell am I? Why am I doing this? What do I really like this? Is this what God wants me to do? Is this my passion?
Right.
And that's why I think because that's such a difficult conversation for people to have with themselves, myself included, um, that's why an agent, someone like me who can come in and facilitate that conversation is so helpful. I can get somebody in a couple of weeks, probably a few hours of time, massively moving towards their I don't do the tactics anymore, but I do the mindset stuff and the strategy stuff. And it's just, that's, it's that simple, really. Just have that discussion somehow with someone who you trust, who has your best interests at heart.
Yeah, there's a key word is trust also. And in this day and age, we have so much information and so much everything thrown at us, and especially the young people. And I think sometimes we're stuck in how we've been defined, and even though we want to get out of how we've been defined, we can't get out of how we've been defined.
Yeah, I call it the box that you put yourself in, and I find that most people didn't even make their own box, right?
Right.
You alluded to it. It was a guidance counselor or a teacher or a coach or an uncle or somebody said you should do this, and you're like, well, I don't know what I should do, so maybe I should do that because you're older than I and you know what you're talking about. Well, yeah, but you never asked me one question about who I was, so how valid could that request be? And that's why I went to became a marketing major, because my guidance counselor said that's probably would suit you. I'm like,
Hey,
yeah,
I
really?
didn't I wasn't thrilled about accounting. I was good at it, but I
Yeah,
wasn't to get mine. I got my CPA and I rationalized it saying, well, at least I'll know this for business. But I really wanted to be a sports broadcaster if I couldn't be a pro hockey player
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Well, I have a circle of friends and then a bigger circle of colleagues and, interaction with a lot of people, clients and stuff. And I just see a lot of men my age, somewhere between 50 and 70, I suppose. And those numbers are going up, I suppose. But there's a people call it a midlife crisis, but it's usually related to either a divorce, some financial hardship, a health scare, um,
Sure.
loss of employment, unexpected loss of employment. But it threatens your self reputation. It threatens your who am I? How did this happen? Why
It
did
can
this
al
happen?
it can also, I agree 100%. It can also put you into survivor mode.
Hmm.
And when you're in survivor mode, it's hard because you don't have time for creativity. You don't have a space for creativity. You
No.
know, the space for even thinking about what you would love to do because you're surviving.
Yeah, and so I really have empathy for guys in that situation. And we've been told for a while now that we're not supposed to talk about certain things. We're not supposed to wear our emotions on our sleeves. We're not supposed to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the mixed messages, like what is a man? Like I never had that discussion when I was young. I knew what a man was. It was very clear to. I knew what a woman was too, and that was all there were. So,
Do you remember Rosie Greer, that name?
oh yeah,
He used to crochet,
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
And
I
he's a
know. I remember that.
big black guy.
Yeah.
And no one was going to tell him not to crochet because, and his
Hey,
name is Rosie. He was called Rosie
I
too.
know. It's good. I remember that vividly. It also makes me think of Reggie White, who just talked about Jesus all the time,
Mhm.
and got in a lot of fights about that. And he would pummel guys in practice. But yeah. Anyway,
It's interesting. No, it's great. It's great work what you're doing, and I'd love to keep up on it. I want to ask you one more question for this part. In LA we say leave them wanting more so we can do a sequel.
yeah, yeah.
So because we got to do sequels just to make another movie. But one last question. I had a client in 2021 told me about 2020, which was COVID year, that it was the year that flew by slowly.
Hmm.
And I thought, how brilliant. And even to this point, this day, people feel like it was yesterday and years ago, all at the same time.
Yeah,
It's
that
like
is
a
interesting.
blend of things. But with all that said, we're at almost the end of 2025 already, which is amazing.
Hmm.
Um, what are you most grateful for, and what are you most hopeful for?
I do a gratitude exercise every day, and there's 5 things on the list.
And you're a real man?
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that up to your audience to send some feedback. Um, the number one is always God, and number two is always my kids, and then the other three I rotate depending on who needs the most love. My girlfriend, my business, and my health. And I basically just say, God, help me out today. I need you on my shoulder, and I express tremendous gratitude for my children and my girlfriend. and I express usually curiosity about my health, like keep checking into that, keep looking into that. Don't assume you know everything. And then my business, I try with sometimes I say I'm scared and excited about my business, but that's a very formal part of my morning routine. So I appreciate you asking that. Hopeful for um, I hope we figure out AI. There's a whole lot of speculation, but more importantly, go back to that human connection thing. I hope we start. I hope we learn how to be kind to each other and communicate more with each other, even when we disagree. We used to be able to do that, and I think we can do it again. And I know that you've got some initiatives going in that space. So yeah, that's what I really hope for: human connection.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's right on the money. And you know what? I think everybody's craving that
They
actually.
are. They are. Everybody I talk to is.
Yeah, they are, and I think everybody's yeah, scared and excited is fine. You know, I learned in sports and even public speaking that if you're not scared or nervous a little bit, then you probably don't care. You know.
Yeah, we had a I was the All-Star game when I was 12. My dad was the coach, and we kept all of us kept going behind the food shack to pee. And I said, Dad, everyone's so nervous. And he said, I'll never forget it. He says to me, Mark, if you weren't nervous, you'd either be stupid or you'd be a liar. So I'll always remember that, and it helps me when I'm nervous.
Yeah, I'll second the motion. If you're not, what is it? Does it
Yeah,
matter?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, you know, I'm grateful for a new friend. I'll tell you that, and I can remember his name,
Me
type of
too,
thing.
Mark.
And
Me too. Me too.
and
And
I'm probably
we both have names that are difficult to pronounce.
oh yeah. Well, you mean the last name? You know, it's very funny you say that. I like to go here. Every once in a while, someone says, "Can you spell your name?" So I start spelling my last name, and then they say, "No, Mark." And I'm thinking, you got a 50-50 shot here, dude. Live on the edge and go for it, type of thing.
Well,
But
I stopped using my last name at restaurants a long time ago. And when I spell my name, my younger brother shared this with me. You can't just go Aylward, because people will go ALY and WOOD. You have to go AYLWARD, and it works every time. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I was in my 40s.
well, yeah, it's got to be compartmentalized. That's pretty smart. That's why they
Yeah,
do the phone numbers the way they do them. Bam,
yeah,
bam, like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks for being on this series. Thanks for being who you are and a leader who cares, and appreciate everything you're doing.
Yeah, you too, Mark. It was a pleasure being on. I look forward to the next one.
You got it.